What's up, mamas? Thanks so much for being here with us. Today we have Samantha Day. She's a learning behavior specialist and certified infant and child sleep consultant. Yes, please, Samantha. We're going to be talking about infant and child sleep. Thanks so much for being here with me.
I am thrilled that we are going to talk all the things that we need to get some solid sleep and behavior as well, because they go hand in hand.
Oh my goodness. Hallelujah. Let's start. So you have a free guide that helps parents understand how much sleep their kids need and when. Give us kind of a general overview of what that means.
Yeah. So there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that goes into solid sleep, right? We would think it just should come easy, but as mamas know, it's a process. And there's a lot of little pieces that go into, but one of the biggest pieces on getting solid sleep is avoiding overtired levels. When our kiddos get to the point where they are overtired, no matter the age level, when you and I as adults are tired, we look tired. We're ready to just crawl in our bed and go to sleep. But when our babies and our toddlers are tired, they actually have a spike internally of cortisol levels that make it harder to fall asleep and harder to stay asleep, connecting to, the difficulty falling asleep, but also multiple night wakings, early morning rising, short naps, all the things. So if we look at when they need to be sleeping based on their current age, that's a powerful way of avoiding overtired levels. So the guide helps with figuring out how old is my child, how much sleep do they really need, and how much is too much, because there is such a thing. And then when should they be napping during the day? Before looking at anything else, that piece right there can really make sleep a lot smoother for a lot of families.
So when it's important to know when they should be sleeping. So let's start with an infant. Mm-hmm. And like I told you before, I have a 6-week-old. So how much should he be sleeping?
Yeah.
And when?
Well, I break it into 8 different age categories. And the first one would be birth until about 3.5 to 4 months old. Then things change around 4 months. We've all heard of, the 4-month sleep regression, right? But yes. 4 months and up, the answer would be different. But when we're looking at your little one's age right now, segmented sleep is completely normal. We're expecting night wakings. We're expecting some, shorter naps, longer naps, some variation. All of that's normal and actually what we want. But when we're looking at how much awake time, we really want to avoid being awake anywhere in the day for more than about 90 minutes tops. But there are some portions of the day where they may only need or could only handle maybe 30 minutes before their body's like, yep, I'm ready for my next nap. And at 6 weeks old, 30 minutes is a diaper change and a feeding sometimes. And that's about it, right? So sometimes it doesn't even seem like much awake time at all. But in a total 24-hour period, usually between 16 and 19 hours of sleep, but very segmented, which leads to some tired parents, right? And then as they get older, that typically becomes a little bit less and a little bit less, but all the way until 5 years old, we're typically looking for 11 to 12 hours of overnight sleep. There's some kids that need slightly less, but overnight sleep is super important. And then under 3 years old, usually we're looking at, multiple naps or at least one nap a day still for most kids, but every kiddo is different.
And what about the toddler stage? When is the best time? Because that's kind of an awkward stage. Like you said, it could be one nap or it could be two, and you're trying to figure that out and then still have them get a good night's rest. So what advice do you have for that toddler stage?
Yeah. So I typically say that toddler is 12 months and up. People say that for different ages. But so for toddler, for me, usually we see 2 naps a day till at least 13 months old, but it's really a range of anywhere between 13 and 18 months old. So somewhere in that window of time, your little one's going to start showing you signs that they're ready to go to 1 nap a day. There's not many kids over 18 months that can still handle 2 naps. And that's because their body becomes prepared to be able to be awake longer before that nap happens. So we have wake up in the morning, a long stretch of maybe 5 to 6 hours before that nap happens, and then another stretch before bedtime. But that's usually what happens. We know that it's time to go to 1 nap as they get a little bit older and maybe start not falling asleep for a nap that they were previously taking, or one of their naps gets so long and strong that there's just not time in the day for the second nap. So that's kind of how that goes, but we're still looking for that solid sleep overnight at that age for sure.
Do you have any tips if a toddler is having a hard time sleeping past like 45 minutes? Because some kind of take cat naps and then that's it for the rest of the day. And they're tired and ornery as the day goes on. What tips do you have for helping kids take a little bit longer nap?
Yeah. So, well, one big thing, there's again, multiple pieces of the puzzle, but one big thing is the environment. Now, there's some kids who go to daycare and they're sleeping in a brighter environment, there's stimulation going on, and some kids do well with that just fine. But when we're at home, when we as parents can control the sleep environment, it's really nice to darken the space as much as we can, not just to calm it and make it look like it's time for sleep, but actually to support them internally, because the darker the room, the better production of melatonin. Sunlight actually has the ability to suppress our body's natural production of melatonin. So, like I said, if you're in daycare, your kiddo's in daycare, don't stress that they're, oh my gosh, they're sleeping in a bright environment. They will adjust just fine. But when we can control it on the weekends or, in the early hours of the morning, darkening that space actually internally will help them reach a deeper level of sleep. So that's one helpful thing. If we're seeing a short nap at home, is darken that space as much as you can. So the other really important part is to teach them to fall asleep independently at the start of the nap, which there's a bunch of different ways to do that. And I always urge families to do that in a way that you feel comfortable with. And we'll talk more about that. But if once your child learns to fall asleep independently at the start of their sleep session, whether it's bedtime or for a nap as well, it's easier to connect those sleep cycles. And one sleep cycle at that age, let's say between 1 and 2 years old, is about 45 to 60 minutes long. So when they fall asleep, with someone right there with them or holding them or, whatever it is, they make it through one sleep cycle. Their body goes into light sleep. They wake up and they're like, where'd mom go? What's going on here? Right.
Yes.
And they need often assistance to return back to sleep after that happens. But here's the kicker. It's not always easy to return back to sleep. If you've already fallen asleep for a nap, you've already had one sleep cycle, going back to sleep after that is really hard to do. So that kind of leads to those shorter naps sometimes. So looking at the environment, of course, making sleep a priority and teaching that skill of falling asleep independently in a way that fits your family are keys to making those naps longer for toddlers, but also for all ages.
I love that advice. And is it similar for nighttime sleep? Is it similar advice for that nighttime sleep?
Yeah. So nighttime and naps go hand in hand. So usually we'll see that night sleep becomes longer and stronger first, and then naps follow, but they definitely connect to each other. If we have, let's say, naps that are happening, at the wrong time, like we had talked about, like they're overtired going into the nap, sometimes we'll see that those short naps connect to a difficult time falling asleep at bedtime. Or if they woke up multiple times overnight, potentially we could be seeing even shorter naps or difficulty napping during the day. So they go hand in hand. But yes, the ability when they reach an age where they can learn to fall asleep without being fully assisted. So for some kiddos, that's 4 months. For some of them, it might be older, but it's never too late if your little one hasn't learned that skill yet. When they learn that skill, that's really when we get to the place where we can start doing a lot of things like connecting sleep cycles for naps and making it past early morning wake ups. And all of those things become a lot stronger when we get to the place where they learn that skill. But if you don't mind talking about it real fast, there's a lot of controversy around doing that. And I think that's where I differ a little bit from other consultants that are out there, because my background is in child behavior. First and foremost, that's what I did first. And then after becoming a mom, went back to school to get certified in sleep, and now have been doing this for about 6 years. But I think it's really important to look at the behavioral side of this and the fact that when our babies are born, they are often looking for a high level of help in the falling asleep process. That is age appropriate. We snuggle our babies. We do all the things. You're never going to, spoil them too much at that age. You just do you, right? And enjoy that time. But eventually, when it fits your family, getting to the place, and I recommend 4 months and up, where we can teach them that skill of falling asleep independently, it's very, very beneficial. Even for families that choose to continue co-sleeping, that's okay as well. But that skill is so helpful. And the controversy falls in how we do it. So there are some families that, let's say a mom hears the words "cry it out" and she is out of the room. That sentence, those 3 words can spark big time emotions in people. And so what I like to do is to say that it doesn't matter. Your family is different from my family and different than your neighbor's family and everyone else's family. But there is one thing we all have in common. Every single human on the planet was designed to sleep. So our path to get to sleep might be totally different. Somebody might say, cry it out. Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that. And somebody else might say, no way, not going to do it. Well, then we pick a way more gentle option and we look at it in that way. But no matter the case, our babies our babies, have segmented sleep, but they need sleep, right? Our toddlers need that solid sleep, and it connects to behavior as well during the day, patience level. But the benefits of sleep, no matter how you get there, are endless. I mean, memory requisition and immune system strengthenings. I could go on and on and on. But I just always like to stress that cry it out is not the only way. I personally didn't do cry it out with either of my children, and I don't with most of the families I work with. It's actually rare for me to find a family that chooses to do that. But it's really a matter of being like, okay, how can I reach my goals in a way that I feel comfortable with? And I always like to push past that misconception that's out there, because a lot of people think that sleep training equals cry it out. And that's just not the case.
Right.
I don't call it sleep training. I call it teaching sleep, because it really is teaching a skill that our children will eventually have to learn.